Hello everybody, this is ECAbrams, and in this After Effects tutorial, we're going to make some nice liquid shapes that fill up and divide from each other like cells, and you can pretend to know something about science. And I'm at least going to pretend to know something about animating. This is a good technique for doing this kind of wet liquid look to things. It doesn't have to be cells. That's what it looks like when you do it with the letter A. Looks like it's connected by snot. It's kind of gross, but it's very hip, it's very with it right now. A lot of people are doing it, and a lot of the time you have to do a lot of manual work to really make this happen for you. So hopefully this will help you save a little bit of work, might make it a little bit easier. If you do run into any troubles in this tutorial, just, take it slow. I recommend everybody watch it through once and then go back and go through it with After Effects open so you can know where we're going. But if you have any troubles, leave your questions in the comments of this video and I'll try to get back to you when I can. But without further ado, let's get into After Effects and actually make some stuff. Alright, so here in After Effects, I'm just going to quickly look over some of the things you've already seen in the intro. So what we're going to be creating is this kind of blobulous shape. Now, it looks pretty complex, but really these three layers that make up what you're seeing are actually all duplicates of one layer. So let's just solo that. Cool. What you're looking at here are just a circle, a rectangle, another circle, or ellipse, if you will, that move apart. Call up their keyframes here. And looks like a few keyframes, but, don't worry too much about that. So they move apart, they come back together. I'm really only concerned with this moving apart part, because that'll really show us how the technique works, and I'm sure you can figure the rest out for yourself. But the point is, what we're looking at here in the keyframes, it looks like a lot. It's not as weird as you think. So, circle, circle, rectangle, they move apart. Now the rest of this is actually defined by some effects. I'll just go up here to the effects control of this layer. We got a roughen edges, we got a levels, we got another roughen edges, and a turbulent displace. That's it, 4 things. Only one of them actually has keyframes on it, so this is going to be pretty easy, I think. So let's start over and we'll create this. And the process is going to be exactly the same. So whether we're making these two things come apart or whether we're making the letter A split apart, it's all kind of the same stuff that's going on, right? So it's all these things that add up to that. So this is just rectangle, rectangle, and then, a bunch of this blob crap going on. So this can easily turn into this when you apply the technique in fun and interesting ways. So fun, so interesting. Oh boy, I can't wait. So let's go ahead and create a new composition. Let's call this one the tutorial file. This is the thing we're going to make in the tutorial. Great. It's going to be 5 seconds long. Maybe that's even excessive. And I'm using the HDTV 1080 preset here. So that means my frame size is 1920 by 1080. That's only important because the effects we're using work off of the frame size. So a lot of the numbers I'm going to use are going to be relative to these frame size numbers. So if your frame is different than mine, then you can't use the same numbers. And just gonna hit OK here. And I'm actually going to recommend don't pay too much attention to the numbers. All right. I don't want you to learn a recipe so you can only do one thing one way. I want you to take this information, put it into your brain, swirl it around, make some fun stuff on your own. So step 1, let's make that shape that is the 2 circles and the rectangle. Let's do that first. So we can double click up here on the rectangle tool. Woo, we made a rectangle. We are so good at this. I'm going to use a nice bright color so we can kind of see what we're doing. Awesome. That's a fun color. And I'm twirling down into the contents, twirling down into the rectangle group, twirling down into the size of this rectangle. I'm unlinking, and we're going to start us off at 0 and about 400. Cool. So I'm going to set a keyframe for that. I'm going to move ahead in time to 1 second. Hey, we moved ahead in time. And now I'm going to stretch this thing out to 400 by 0. So that means that this thing's going woo, kind of like this. I'm not sure if this is the actual size I need. This might actually need to be longer, maybe 600. I don't really know. It's kind of making it up as I go. But we got this rectangle. Now we're going to need to add those circles. So we're going to go just selecting this group here. I'm going to go add an ellipse. Inside this group, inside the contents, we've got a path. We've got another path. Then we've got a stroke, a fill, and the transform properties for this. So just keep your shape layer hierarchies in mind. We're going to need to mess with the position of this. We need it to end over here at about 300. Cool. We need it to start in the middle at 0. Neat. So it's going to go wee, just like that. All right. So it should probably end a little bit larger. Maybe it should end that big. Cool. Set a keyframe here. You can leave these constrained. That's fine. And here, let's start it off this big. Okay. So wee, look at it go. Awesome. So we've got that. Let's take that ellipse path. Let's duplicate it. You duplicate things by hitting Control D or Command D on a Mac. Really depends what you want to do there. And the only real difference between the first one and the second one is that its final destination is minus 300 out there like that. That is fun. That's fun. So let's take all of these. Let's easy ease them so we can right click on them, keyframe assistant, easy ease. We could do that way. We just hit F9, go up in the menus and do it, whatever. So we've easy eased them, which means that instead of a linear relationship in time, it kind of starts slow, speeds up, slows down again. That's fun, so much fun. But I want to select these keyframes and I want to go to my graph editor. And the graph editor is at this point displaying speed over time. So things are moving this fast at this point and then moving this fast at this point. And that's because I'm editing a speed graph. If yours looks like maybe this, yours might look like that. I don't know why, but just go edit speed graph. Now yours looks like mine. Happy birthday. So select all the points, grab this, push them like that. So now the fastest point in time is here at the beginning. Woo! Like that. Maybe we want to edit these keyframes at this point. Maybe take care of this before we get into the rest of the stuff. So these things don't need to be so far apart. Let's touch that up. Just tabbing through, bringing them a little bit close together. Everyone should just get a little bit close together. Sometimes it's helpful. And now the next thing to address, I guess, we're done with this basic crap. Let's make these things look mushy. Let's add those effects that smush this thing around and take it from being two balls and a stick into something actually gross. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go into the effects over here and we're going to get the roughen edges. Woo, roughen edges. We throw the roughen edges down. Neat. And already it's making the edges rough. Great. And you can see that already it's taking these sharp corners and it's making them smooth. Cool. The first job of this thing, we want to mess with this so it's all very smooth. We want to make the big moves first, so smooth this out as much as possible. And let's just talk for a minute about what roughen edges is. What does it do? Hit the about here and learn that this is version 1.0, whatever. But what does it do? We're right now working with the edge type of roughen. I mean, we could use things like cut, like spiky, like rusty. Let's just use roughen, okay? And let's go through some of the settings. So the border, you can see when I increase the border, it's playing with more space this side and this side of the sort of alpha bounds of this layer. Whoa, alpha bounds? What are you talking about? Well, all layers have color information and alpha information. Basically, the alpha information is saying, you know, I'm visible here, I'm not visible here. Oh, thank you. Thank you, alpha information. That's great. And the border is the area between that zone. All right. So this place you can't see me, this place you can see me. The border is here. And now the border is this wide. So let's say the border is 0, right? No change. Border 0, who cares? Border gets bigger than 0, we start to see changes. All right, because we're giving it an area, in this case, an area 62, I guess, pixels wide between here and here. I don't know if it's pixels. It's 62. The number is 62. Whatever. Great. Now, the next number down here is the sharpness. How sharp is that? So it could be as high as 10, could be as low as 0. So you see real difference here. I'm actually going to leave it at 10. All right. It's important to me that it remains at 10. Now, the next thing is the fractal influence. Probably asking yourself, where are these fractals and why are they influencing this? Well, first off, what is a fractal? So I'm going to go new, solid. This has very little to do with the tutorial, but I thought you should know. Type in fractal noise. So we're using fractals in the fractal noise to define, this is white, this is black, this is gray. This is fractals. You're enjoying it. It looks like clouds. Woo! What do clouds have to do with this? Well, essentially, we're using the same kind of math to define the quote-unquote random, kind of random blobulousness of what's happening. So if in this layer, I'm saying fractal influence this at 1, that means, 100% fractal influence. If I put this down to 0, I'm saying fractal, don't influence me. I'm just saying no to your drugs, okay? But I put this up to 1, that's essentially saying, yes, I would like some of your drugs. Give me your drugs, fractal. And it is now giving them to me. Thank you for the drugs. But you should all just say no to drugs. The scale here is basically the scale of that fractal. So, big scale, tiny scale. So you can see you can do fun things. There's a big range of what you can do with this, right? So you saw what the scale was doing. I put it up, put it down. Just like if we look at this and I mess with the, say, transform scale, put it up, put it down, you get what's happening, right? Same thing. I'm scaling a fractal. Yay! He's doing it. Okay, that's the scale. Let's mess with this a little bit more. Stretch width or height, so you can make it horizontal, vertical. So positive numbers can be width, negative numbers height. We don't mess with that. You can offset this, so you can be like, I'm moving it. Just going to move it around. So that could be fun. Maybe you want to play with that sometime. Complexity. Complexity allows you to sort of increase more fractal stuff, more octaves of fractals. I'm just going to leave that down at 1 for now. And evolution is you can make this thing undulate in fun ways. And these evolution options are things like the random seed, which is which iteration of this thing are we looking at? Okay, I think that's enough about rough and edges. Let's get into what values we would like, all right? So the sharpness, make it sharp. Give me the sharpest thing you got. Bring that influence down, way down. At this point, I don't care for your influence fractal. I just want you to make these things, just curve it out, all right? So fractal influence 1. You put the scale to 10, but I mean, we could jack the scale way up, we could put it way down. And you notice that when we put the scale way up, we get this nice hard edge here. So maybe that's something you're into, maybe not, but you can put the scale down as well and put the scale at like 10, which is fine. So this kind of creates this sort of gray, softer zone in here. And if we jack it up, then we're kind of filling this space. So if you end up with a scale that's low because of whatever reasons you end up with, and most of the reasons have to do with your frame size. So this scale and the size of your stuff and all of these things are really going to change a lot. So let's say, for example, you have to have your scale low and you end up with this this kind of blurriness. That's fine. We'll fix that on a next step. But something we want to do here, though, is keyframe the border. So we're going to start it at a border of 0. Cool. And we also want to end on a border of 0. Also fun. So I'm going to hit U and bring up all the things I've keyframed. Make sure I've got keyframes. Cool, I've got a keyframe at the start, keyframe at the end. And I just click on the stopwatch here that says I'm going to keyframe that thing. So 0, 0. Here in the middle, the point of maximum stretchiness, let's mess with this thing. Let's mess it up. So we mess it up like this. So now it's and then it separates. So creating this thing in the middle. Now we talked about that scale before, right? See if I amp that scale up, what happens? Oh yeah, I see what's going on. Neat. So the scale is up. This thing's looking good. This thing is coming together. It's looking a little blobulous, even at this point, with the minimal amount of things we've done to it. But we also end up with stuff like, just go to here. See this zone here? This is like 100% alpha on, 0% alpha off, and this is a little gray zone in between, and that's all because of, the scale and stuff. So maybe you jack the scale up as high as it'll possibly go. Maybe that's how you want to solve that, or you leave it down at 10 and, whatever. So we want a little bit more control over what's going on here. We want to control this sort of gray zone in here. All right. And I'm going to amp this border up a little bit more, a little bit less. I don't even know. We're going to play with this number as we go. So we've got our first roughen edges on. Congratulations. You've got this weird tendril linking these two things. The next thing I want to throw on there is a levels. Levels. You probably worked with this before. It's usually used with color. We're only going to use it for its control over the alpha. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the input white, we're going to take that down to a 1, maybe a 1 point something, something like that. We're going to clamp down on this situation. And it seems to be doing the same thing as the scale, right? And the reason I like to use the levels instead of the scale is because the scale can be kind of wishy-washy for me. The scale is really dependent on the frame size or whatever. The levels is absolute, is crushing, and it's just saying, all right, shape it up, layer. I've had enough of your maybe I'm on, maybe I'm not kind of alpha policies. I'm clamping down. I'm saying you're either a 0 or you're a 1. All right. Remember that for life too. That could really mess you up. So great. We've got this going. We got that going. Now, the next problem we've created for ourselves is this looks bad. Maybe this is a look you're into. I am not. So we need to clean up this border area. Oh, if only I knew of an effect here that deals with the border zone of the alphas of things and kind of smooths that. Oh yeah, I do know that. I do know one of those. It's called roughen edges. So we put another roughen edges on here, and the roughen edges, again, it's doing the same thing that we like. It's just taking this border and it's going, wee, it's having fun with it. All right. But I'm going to keyframe on this one, the fractal influence. So here in the middle, in the fun zone, we're going to set that to 1. Here at the beginning, the boring zone, I'm going to set it to 0. And here at the end, I'm going to set it to 0 also. And make sure that you're putting keyframes on that. So make sure you click that stopwatch, make sure keyframes are happening. Okay. So let's look at this. What have we made? What have we done? And why did we do it? All right. So I'm just going to hit the little 0 button there, 0 on your number pad, render this out. Plurp, plurp. Oh yeah, that's gross. We've got a start state, which is a nice, clean, crisp circle. The end state is 2 nice, clean, crisp circles. The mid state is a gross, blobulous mess. Hooray! You did it. You did the thing. Now, to refine this look, like we talked about, you can mess with the scale a little bit, stuff like that. You can also bring in something called a turbulent displace. Drop one of those bad boys down. Ugh, oh, sorry. By default, it looks pretty horrible. But just like roughen edges, turbulent displace pushes things around. Now, roughen edges only works on the alpha edges of a layer. The turbulent displace, however, works upon everything. Everything's getting pushed around. So if we had content in here, it would be pushing that around too. We just might want to bring these numbers down a little bit. The amount is basically how pushy are you being. The size is how big are the things that you're pushing. So, ooh, yeah. Oh, man, look how goopy and weird that is. So this is a good effect for pushing stuff around, getting goopy and weird. You want to keep your anti-aliasing on high, though. That's important. Keep your complexity low, because the higher your complexity, the wackier it kind of gets. But, these are things that do this thing. So I'm just going to go 10 and 20. That's what I'm looking for. And that kind of gives me a little bit of a hand-drawn kind of look to this, which I think is appropriate. And there we go. We got this cell kind of dividing. Bloop, bloop. Now, you might be thinking, Evan, I really want some more control over this. I'm not super thrilled with what's happening. All right there, buddy, you crazy control freak. Just go in and set some keyframes. You can go in here, you can set some keyframes like, ooh, I want to keep this strand wider, longer. Well, just set a keyframe for it. Jeez. Don't make your problems my problems. Get a little bit of manual control in there. Don't be afraid to play around with stuff like that. And the other thing is, maybe you want to apply a little bit of gravity to this thing. Like why wouldn't this line start to droop a little? Maybe it would come down a little bit as this is going on. So it would be like, it would start here and then it'd be like, kind of gross. This whole thing is kind of gross, actually, now that I think about it. Ugh. And the great thing is that just like we did with the A here or any other thing that we're doing, you can see how, the influence of fractals is creating random pockets of junk in here. And that's what's really going to sell how liquidy things are, So hopefully this worked out for you. Hopefully you're making some nice liquid blobs or whatever you're making using this technique. So definitely make it your own. Enjoy. If you have troubles with this tutorial, though, put your questions in the comments of this tutorial and I'll try to get back to you. If you have questions about After Effects in general, hit me up on the Twitter at ECAbrams or on Facebook. I'm on the Facebook, links to that in the description. And if you really had trouble, then the project file for this tutorial is available for download. Head on over to evanabrams.com, follow the links in the description of this to that, and hopefully we'll get you sorted out. If this was great and you want to try something else, then check out some other tutorials by me that are related to this. You might enjoy them. We got some flying liquid blobs. That could be fun. We got some other stuff about shape layers. That could be fun too. I don't know what you're into. I'm not here to tell you what to do. So, well, maybe I am. But anyway, so if those are interesting, then definitely check them out. And new tutorials are happening here all the time. So you should subscribe to this. So hit the old subscribe button. And if you do, then I will see you around the internet. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any troubles. Hit me up on the Twitters, all that crap. I already said it. So yeah, enjoy and happy After Effectsing. After Effectsing? That's stupid. All right, I'm going to turn this off. Bye.